what is up guys, Merganman4 here, and with Doctor Who's 60th anniversary just around the corner, I thought now would be the perfect time to celebrate some of the best this franchise has to offer. Led by an exuberant performance from Jodie Whittaker, the show's first female lead, the 13th Doctor's childlike wonder masked a more reclusive side that often got her in trouble. And between deep dives into history, battling all-powerful gods, and coming face to face with some of the biggest shakeups the show has ever seen, it's hard to deny that this is an era which has generated a lot of discussion. So with that, let's take a look at my top 10 13th Doctor stories. Number 10. Revolution of the Daleks.
Daleks are already in control. Identify Dalek. Incorrect. Scan detects anomalies. Dalek DNA merged with human traces. We have mutated to survive. You are impure. The Dalek race must have purity. Exterminate!
I've always enjoyed when Doctor Who does sequels, and Revolution of the Daleks does more than most, following on from not one, not two, but 4 previous episodes, doing an admirable job bringing each thread together in a fun, action-packed special. Let's start with the obvious. The bulk of the story builds off the fallout from the previous New Year's special, Resolution, as the remnants of the Daleks' reconstructed shell have been discovered and its technology repurposed. Having humans building their own version of the Daleks is a brilliant idea. It's a fun twist on the standard invasion plot and really emphasizes the Daleks' longevity, how the danger isn't always past even when the mutant itself has been defeated. Short-lived though it is, using these defense drones as a supplement to Britain's police forces also makes for some incredibly striking commentary. And I love how the Daleks are enough of a threat that the Doctor's forced to fight fire with fire, luring the real Daleks to Earth to spark a small-scale civil war. It's always an entertaining time to see some Dalek infighting. I'm also really pleased to see Jack Robertson pop up again, after Arachnids in the UK. It's such an unexpected return, and I find the blatant, over-the-top pastiche of Donald Trump to be a lot of fun. He's a perfect fit for the role of sleazy businessman who would use the Daleks to make some cash, playing off both the Daleks and the Doctor really well. And speaking of returning Jacks, the episode also marks the long-awaited reappearance of Captain Jack Harkness after his brief cameo in Series 12, and while his role is admittedly pretty disposable, I can't deny it was great to see him back in action again. Add on top of that a refreshingly understated departure for Ryan and Graham, and you get a highly entertaining 70 minutes. Number 9. Resolution.
So that's what you've been doing. Reconstructing yourself from memory. And remnants. And spare parts.
I am rebuilt.
What do you call this look?
Junkyard chic. Earth is now under the control of the Daleks.
No, it's not. Even the recon scout Daleks, the first ones out of Skaro. Humanity bands together, vanquishes you, and buries you for centuries.
Yet I survived.
Resolution is one of my favorite Dalek stories. It's got that perfect blend of putting a fresh twist on something that's been done to death without straying too far from what made it so great in the first place. Stripping the Dalek from its casing, Chris Chibnall forces it to put its cunning and intelligence front and center, to gather resources and rebuild itself from scratch. It's a fantastic way to emphasize just what a single Dalek is capable of, even without its usual advantages, and in particular, Chibnall really drives home the maliciousness of the creature, slaughtering indiscriminately in a way we really don't see often enough. I'm also a fan of the Recon Scout's ability to attach itself to people and use them as puppets, a more literal form of the Daleks enforcing their will on others, utilizing them as hostages to get its own way. It's a really unsettling use of the mutant itself that gives Resolution a unique flavor. It's everything you love about the Daleks, while still offering a brand new experience that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Elsewhere, the special does a nice job wrapping up Ryan's arc by reuniting him with his dad. While it's true that this is largely separated from the Dalek aspects of the story, there's some good character work as Ryan grapples with his complicated relationship with his dad, and I appreciate how he stands up for himself and refuses to let him just walk back into his life as though nothing happened. And his ultimate acceptance of a second chance, allowing Aaron to overcome the Daleks' control, makes for a brilliantly heartwarming climax. With some strong character moments and a fantastic reintroduction of an old foe, I always have a good time with Resolution. Number 8. Rosa.
Right, come on in. We can go. Job done. History's safe. Well, come on then.
Doctor?
Don't get off, Graham. If we get off, there's enough empty seats for white passengers. Rosa won't be asked to move. We have to stay on.
We were here. We're part of the story. Part of history.
Oh, no, I don't want to be part of this.
We have to. I'm sorry. We have to not help her.
Historical stories have covered a wide array of subjects. Some an excuse for lighthearted fun, others an exploration of serious drama. Rosa is perhaps one of the most striking examples of the latter, delving into mid-50s America and its associated racism in an effective and thoughtful manner. The story does a great job of showing the brutality of history. An early moment of Ryan returning a dropped glove to a white woman, resulting in a violent slap, lets you know this story isn't pulling any punches. And while the villain of the piece, Krasko, has come under criticism for being fairly one-dimensional, well, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Racism is hardly founded in logic, and to have that embodied by someone who's just straight up evil is rather fitting in my opinion. I also really like the driving force behind the plot. The Doctor and co. protecting time from being run off the rails. We surprisingly don't see this kind of deliberate messing with history all that often, and with a serious subject matter such as this, there's a danger in having the characters become too involved should the credit be shifted away from the real-life heroes. Rosa cleverly sidesteps the issue by still allowing the characters to play an active role in events without taking away Rosa Parks' agency, and there's an incredibly powerful moment as Graham realizes in order to keep history intact, they have to become part of events and stay on the bus, so Rosa is asked to move. It's a fascinating and heartbreaking journey into history that leaves a lasting impression. Number 7. It takes you away.
Just one thing. This world is falling apart. I reckon you can only keep one of us. You sure he's your best option? Because the Solar Track doesn't want a husband. You want a whole universe. Someone who has seen it all, and that's me. I've lived longer, seen more, loved more, and lost more. I can share it all with you. Anything you want to know about what you never had.
It Takes You Away is one of those stories that people either seem to love or hate, with very little room in between. And that's fair. It's very unashamedly out there, deliberately playing with your expectations and indulging in strangeness for strangeness' sake. But I'm one of the people that thinks it really, really works. Starting out in a more traditional manner, the Doctor and co. find a scared girl alone in a cabin in the woods, and there's a monster on the loose. But it quickly becomes apparent that things aren't so straightforward. The monster is actually a set of speakers, and there's a mirror in the attic that leads to another world. I'll admit, this threw me off guard my first time watching it, but I've grown to appreciate it more on subsequent rewatches, and once we end up in the Solitract, a sort of mirror dimension where loved ones are returned from death, it all clicks into place for me. It's such a fantastic concept, and a great exploration of grief and how we can become trapped by it. It's great to see Grace again, even if it isn't really her, allowing Graham to confront his grief head on, and I love the twist that the Solitract isn't malicious in nature, just longing for companionship. A sentient universe that wants a friend is beautifully absurd, epitomized by taking on the form of a frog simply because it likes it, and is one of the finest examples of the Doctor using their long life and experience to save the day, not as a threat, but by extending the hand of friendship. It Takes You Away is a bold story that isn't afraid to bring you out of your comfort zone, and I think that's wonderful. Number 6, Demons of the Punjab.
I can't let them through, brother. We are your people, Prem. India's your country. You and Kunal fought for this. This is not what I fought for.
We will watch over him now.
Demons of the Punjab is probably the closest the show has ever come to a pure historical in the modern era, and man do I love it for that. This story delves into the partition of India, a historical event I knew next to nothing about, and rather than getting a broad overview, we focus in on a single family, that of Yaz's grandmother, and witness the division and heartbreak through them. I think this was a really smart move, as it allows us to get up close and personal and really feel the effects, rather than just witnessing them. And it's heartbreaking to see a family torn apart simply because a Hindu man wants to marry a Muslim woman, and just how far some extremists will go for the sake of purity, with Manish ultimately killing his brother rather than accept Prem's openness to other walks of life. Personally, I think that's strong enough to carry the episode all on its own. Prem's death is genuinely one of the most powerful pieces of drama I've seen in Doctor Who. But, being the modern series, there has to be a sci-fi wrinkle somewhere. Enter the Thajarians. To give them credit, they fit the themes of the episode very well. A race whose own planet and people were lost to time, and now they travel the universe as witness to remember those who died alone and pay tribute to them. They're a refreshingly benevolent alien species, and ultimately, the impact of the true monsters isn't lost. Demons of the Punjab is a hauntingly beautiful story that epitomizes everything I love about the historical genre. Superb stuff. Number 5, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
I've spent my life wondering what might be out there. Like creatures who would destroy the whole planet just to get their hands on me?
Recognition at last.
I have to surrender myself. There's nothing else to be done. This is beyond me.
No.
No?
Nikola Tesla, you're gonna change the world. But first, you're gonna save it.
Alright, we've talked about some serious historical stories, now time for one of the fun ones. Nikola Tesla fast became one of my favorite historical figures the show has ever explored. The tragedy of a man ahead of his time, a genius whose work went unacknowledged in his lifetime, but someone still full of hope and wonder. Goran Vizniak is superb, bringing a real charm and warmth to the role, and I love the little moments such as him and the Doctor bonding over the thrill of invention. It's simple stuff, but really effective. Of course, we can't have Tesla without Edison, brought to life with a memorable performance by Robert Glenister. I really like how the episode explores their rivalry and the grudging respect that Edison has for Tesla's work despite the exterior he puts on, and ultimately forcing the two to work together to save the day. It's a fun dynamic that really gives the story a unique feel, and I appreciate that they didn't take the easy route in making Edison a straight-up villain, filling their relationship with shades of grey. The Skithra make for a solid threat too. I like how they mirror Edison, taking and reappropriating others' work rather than create anything themselves, and Anjali Mahindra is clearly having a ball playing the Skithra Queen. Plus, Jodie Whittaker really shines in her confrontations with the Skithra, fully in command and refusing to be intimidated. It's a strong contender for her best performance in the role. Altogether, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror is a fascinating dive into an underappreciated historical figure that I always have a great deal of fun with. Number 4, Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children.
I know my life. I know who I am.
No, you don't. You never have. Your life has been hidden from you. Our founding parents wanted a noble creation myth for the Time Lords. Born to rule.
I remember my home. I remember growing up. I remember you and me at the academy together.
That happened. It just wasn't your first life.
Well, I'm sure this won't be controversial at all. But I've had 4 years to sit on it, and I still really, really enjoy this story. The opening half does an effective job of establishing the bleak future of the Cyber Wars, with humanity and the Cybermen all but wiping each other out, and Ashad continues to be one of the coolest villains the show has ever given us, effortlessly imposing and proving a genuine challenge to the Doctor and co. And while outside of Ashad, the story doesn't really focus on the conversion aspect of the Cybermen as much as one might like, Chibnall, accompanied by Sagan Akinola's fantastic Cyberman theme, really drives home the relentlessness. Rarely have the Cybermen felt so unstoppable. But for me, the Timeless Children is what makes this story. And I know I'm going against the grain here. Most people consider Ascension by far the better half, but, well, I've made it no secret on this channel how much I love Sacha Dhawan's master, and it's this story that solidified him as my favorite incarnation of the character. I find Dhawan such a magnetic performer. I can't keep my eyes off of him, and I'd gladly listen to him exposit for hours on end. I love his rage and unpredictability, and despite the controversial nature of the Timeless Child reveal, here's why it works for me. The Master has always wanted to be equals with the Doctor. He can't stand the idea that she's better than him, which is why as Missy, she decided to try to be better. But we know how that turned out, and now discovering that on a fundamentally genetic level the Doctor is superior, the Master only exists because of the Doctor, that shattered him. He can't rise to her level. So now the only option left is to drag her down to his. And that's the whole point. This isn't a reveal we're supposed to be pleased about. It's supposed to shake us and make us uncomfortable. But while the Master lets it eat away at him, the Doctor rises above it and recognizes that, okay, maybe her life isn't what she thought it was, but that doesn't make the life she knew worthless. She's not the Doctor because of who she was born as, but because it's who she chooses to be. Frankly, the details don't matter. It's what they represent that's important. I think it's reasonable to say that Chibnall didn't take full advantage of this storyline as time went on, but as far as introductions go, sorry, but I think it's a fascinating idea that has so many possibilities. Oh, and the Cybermasters are fantastic. Cybermen that dress as Time Lords and can regenerate. It's the perfect blend of cheesy and frightening. I don't care what the rest of fandom thinks. This is a story that I love unashamedly. Number 3, Spyfall.
Oh, come on, Doctor, catch up. You can do it.
Oh.
That's my name, and that is why I chose it. So satisfying. Doctor, I did say look for the Spy Master. Or should I say Spy Master? Hi.
Spyfall opens Series 12 with a bang. I love when Doctor Who plays around with genres outside of the usual suspects, and the spy pastiche is a lot of fun, suitably packed to the gills with action sequences and undercover work, with a secret spy master pulling the strings. The mystery of Daniel Barton and his alien allies the Kasavan is an intriguing one, as is their ultimate goal to transform humanity into hard drives. The idea of DNA as data storage is an interesting one, and is a satisfyingly unique motivation that ties into the story's themes of technology and the misuse of it. And that's all good stuff, but I'm sure you can guess the main reason this story's here. It is, of course, Sacha Dhawan's Master. I've already mentioned how incredible he is in the role, but here he gets to play a different side as O, the ex-MI6 agent who's gone off-grid in his search for alien life. It's incredible to me the range Dhawan shows. Like with Derek Jacobi before him, he's a completely different person under his disguise, and the switch when he reveals himself is breathtaking. I love going back to part 1 knowing his true identity and seeing the little hints. His look of satisfaction after the Doctor arrives, the hungry gleam in his eyes as he offers the Doctor's secrets to Graham. And it's only brought to another level in part 2 where his rage and unpredictability is brought out in full force. Dhawan's Master is unrivaled in his threat level in my opinion, because he can turn on a dime. He's utterly ruthless. I also love how the story, and the era as a whole really, treats his evil deeds, his desire to kill. Killing and causing misery is his drug. Like he says, it gives him a buzz in the hearts, and I think that's both a fascinating way of looking at the character as a whole, and following on from Missy, whose life ended trying and failing to escape the pull of her past. He's an addict that's relapsed. I like Spyfall, but I love Dhawan's Master, and he elevates this story to a whole new level. Number 2, The Power of the Doctor.
Blossomiest blossom. That's the only sad thing. I want to know what happens next. Right then. Doctor whoever I'm about to be. Tag. You're it.
What a way to go out in style. The Power of the Doctor is arguably the biggest single episode in the show's history. It's one of the longest, beaten out only by 20th anniversary special The Five Doctors, pits the Doctor against all 3 of her greatest enemies at once, and features cameos from doctors and companions galore. It's basically Doctor Who as a blockbuster film, encapsulating everything I love about the show in an epic, fun package. It's so satisfying seeing the classic Doctors back, even for a brief cameo, and the reunions between the hologram 5 and 7 with Tegan and Ace are beautifully touching. And how exciting is it having them make a proper return appearance? And the companion support group at the end, with the show's legacy represented all the way back to 1963, is a brilliant concept and a great way to cap off the episode. But everyone's talked about all that stuff to death, so I want to focus on the Master. What a surprise, eh? And Chris Chibnall really doesn't hold back, giving him his most insane plan to date, which is really saying something, to literally become the Doctor. What a fantastically ridiculous idea, which doesn't just result in another stellar performance from Dhawan, but also highlights the Master's deepest desire and cleverly building off the Timeless Children. His line there, "Become death, become me," made reality. He's tried to rise to the Doctor's level and failed. He's tried to drag the Doctor down to his level and failed. So what's left then to remove all choice from the Doctor? It's the ultimate culmination of their relationship, and when his plan is undone, his line of "don't let me go back to being me" underscores the true tragedy of the Master. He despises himself, but he just can't escape his dark side. Simply brilliant. And to top it off, we get a stunningly beautiful regeneration scene. Visually gorgeous, backed by a breathtaking score by Tegan Akinola, and the Doctor facing the future with excitement and optimism. It's absolute perfection in my books. The Power of the Doctor may not be the best Doctor Who story ever, but as an experience, it's hard to beat. And before we reach my number one 13th Doctor story, let's take a quick look at some honorable mentions which very nearly made the cut. Fugitive of the Judoon. Press play. At Childhood's End. Flux. The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Number 1, The Haunting of Villa Diodati.
My name was Ashad. I did spare your son because he's a useless runt, sickly and weak, and I did have children. I slit their throats when they joined the resistance. In death, we are transformed, improved, updated, as you will learn.
Topping out the list is an atmospheric ghost story set on the night Mary Shelley created Frankenstein. Right away, it's clear that this is something special. The moody atmosphere, the intriguing mystery, the sparkling dialogue. The story does a great job of bringing the scares with the shifting house and reanimated skeleton, but it's also a whole lot of fun, filled to the brim with great character interactions, such as Polidori challenging Ryan and Graham to a duel, or Byron's failed attempts to flirt with the Doctor. It's more than enough to hold up the episode in its own right, but halfway through, we're taken in another direction with the arrival of the lone Cyberman. And what a villain he is. Like with Resolution, we're dealing with a monster that's been around a long time, so it's a challenge to do something unique that stays true to the original intention. But Haunting and the following episodes manage it brilliantly by giving us someone who wants to be a Cyberman, someone who chose this life. But his conversion was left incomplete, so he still has emotions and he has a heck of an awesome design. The scariest part of the Cybermen is that they used to be like us, and a lot of Cybermen stories miss that. But it's impossible to miss it with Ashad, and there's a fantastic moment near the climax where Mary tries to reason with him, and it appears we're going to get the classic love defeats the Cybermen ending. But then things take a turn and we get the brutal revelation that not only was this his choice, but he killed his own children for fighting back against the Cybermen. Chilling stuff. And to top things off, this is a story where the Doctor actually loses. She's forced to give Ashad what he needs in order to keep history intact, a calculated gamble that what she can't fix now, she'll be able to fix later. I'm glad Doctor Who doesn't do this all the time, but every once in a while, it's fantastic and a great lead into the finale. With laughs and scares and a great new twist on an old monster, there's no doubt that The Haunting of Villa Diodati is a resounding success. But what do you think? Were there any surprise inclusions? Did I leave out your top choice? Let me know what your favorite 13th Doctor stories are down in the comments below. And with that, Merganman4 over and out, and I'll see you all next time with my top 10 spin-off stories.